hope they might do well in governance.
I agree with you 100%, that this cost is still very high, and maybe the National Assembly should consider reviewing it. Yes, it's a progressive step because what it does is it limits parties to these thresholds, because parties have been complicit in exploiting aspirants during elections and begging high cost of nomination fees. It's quite problematic for our electoral process. So this is a progressive amendment, but I think 10 million naira is still very high. It should be reviewed downward. I know the justification will be that because we don't have state funding for political parties, parties use generate revenue from this sale of funds to run party affairs. But I think for those offices, I think it should be reviewed downward. But there are two quick points I need to make on this point about campaign financing. One of the gaps in the law is if you look at campaign spending, if you look at section 88 down to 92, it talks about contributions to a candidate. It doesn't say aspirants. And so if we're going to amend the law, we should also cover the point of aspiration, because oftentimes, donations are made to aspirants before they become candidates. And when they become candidates, it becomes, the party affair. So as we're introducing campaign spending limits and monitoring, it should extend to even when people are aspiring to secure the nomination of their parties. And the second point was around audits and monitoring. Organizations have been monitoring campaign finance over the years. And as at today, I don't know of any prosecution, that has taken place and someone who has gone to jail for violating the law. And it still boils down to this point about strong institutions, that we need institutions to implement these laws, else they will just be there on the page, on the leaves of our Electoral Act. Because if you look at the 2015 elections, look at 2019, both the PDP and the APC violated campaign finance regulations. In 2015, even when the law says 1 billion is pegged for presidential elections, we still saw how, about 2.1 billion that was earmarked for procuring arms was used. In fact, the former Minister of Petroleum Resources actually was alleged to have distributed close to 23 billion naira. If you look at the media expenditure of both the APC and the PDP in the 2019 elections, it went above that. But no one is speaking. The law provides that after every election, 3 months after every election, after a general election, political parties are required to submit a report to INEC. As at today, we don't know how many political parties have submitted their audited statements and accounts. So it boils down to what? Implementation. But INEC needs to be strengthened. But INEC cannot do this alone. Civil society, and I think the legislature also has a role, to play in trying to regulate, or ensure compliance with some of these laws.
I was going to take this back to Honorable Kalu just to get his thoughts on the nomination form and what's the thinking. But clearly there will also be a public hearing, and maybe before then we'll have our own version of a public hearing right here on Sunrise Daily. But gentlemen, we have come to the end of the program and this discussion for today. We would like to thank you so much, Honorable Benjamin Kalu, spokesperson of the House of Representatives, as well as Mr. Samson Itodo, the Executive Director of IAGA Africa. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts, and wish you the very best with that amendment.
Always a delight. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you for inviting me.